Hey, I'm Jim Cossey. I'm a Panasonic UK ambassador, and today it's all about sports photography. I'm going to walk you through all the tips and tricks about how to set up the shot, from camera settings to lens choices and compositions. And today we've got 4 different videos we're going to be showing, and each one of them is going to be slightly different in how we approach sports photography. Hey Maddie.
Hi, how are you doing?
So we've got Matty today. He's a street trials rider, and first video we're going to be looking at is using this bouncy ball that he does a pretty cool trick on, where he does a front somersault, lands on his back and gets catapulted back onto his 2 wheels. Oh! That's what I'm talking about. As you can see, it's quite a fast moving trick. This may seem a bit daunting to a lot of people, but because we're underneath a very sheltered spot where we have consistent light that's not really changing, I'm going to set up the camera in manual mode, and I'm looking for about 1,000th to 1/300th or 1/1600th of a second in order to have a fast shutter speed to capture that. So I'm going to set this camera up. I'm probably going to use my maximum widest aperture, so that would be f4 on the 16 to 35. We're going to shoot nice and wide to sort of make it quite dramatic. Now, as you can see behind me, we've got lots of pillars that will probably be pretty cool in the background. We've got lots of graffiti on, so there's lots of stuff going on, but if I can shoot low and wide, it's going to really bring the emphasis on the shot and make, again, just a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more interesting if I was, say, from just head height looking down. A lot of shots today are going to be low down, high up, off to one side, to try and really maximize telling the story and to make it more of a dynamic image at the end. So f4, 1/3000th of a second, ISO 2500. I'm going to set my image, my composition, sorry, low down, like I said. Shooting on mirrorless cameras, we've got the beauty that we can use the live view on the screens down here. We've got touchscreen if we want to, but I'm just going to get nice and low to start with. I'm going to have him off to one side of the frame, and then we'll go and see how it turns out. But 1/1600th, 1/3000th of a second on the shutter speed should be well fast enough to help freeze Matty. And I'm going to try and get him so he's just on his back and just coming back over. So it's kind of telling the story that he's done a somersault and he's coming back round. And I'll stick it on autofocus, probably stick it on continuous, and I'll just get him coming in and panning the camera around and then taking the shot. And what I might do is stick it on burst mode, because it might be quite good to get a couple of shots so we get a whole sequence of coming in and coming out. So it's going to do that now. With this camera, and what a lot of cameras now, especially mirrorless cameras, you know, you can shoot up to 20 frames per second. So I'm going to do that, and so hopefully by the end we'll have a nice sequence and we can choose the nicest shot. Also, if your camera can, I know on these Lumix cameras we can do 4K photo, so that will give us up to 30 frames a second. All right, okay, ready? Nice. Yeah, nice, we got the shot. Okay, yeah. Nice, nice. So with the wide angle, it allows us to get really close to the action. It allows us to almost be there when Matty was flipping there. And again, it just brings you into that shot. We'll do some shots later, especially when we're looking at other lenses to shoot far away, but it's nice to shoot nice and wide and come in really close to Matty and get it all in with this 16 to 35. All right, okay, cool. Should we go on to the next one? All right, so we've moved the ball round to the middle in between these 4 sets of pillars, and because it's nice and symmetrical, I think it's going to make a much more interesting shot. And again, it pays for you to, if you're looking at a location, to have a good walk around, to take some pre-shots, because there's always going to be something that you've probably not quite noticed when you first turn up. So I think with Matty jumping on the ball, it's going to look pretty interesting. And then afterwards, we've got some smoke to play with. got Matty in the middle of the ball, which is great, but compositionally I'm still not happy. The pillars seem too far away. They're just not, they're not working. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to forget about these two outer pillars and concentrate on the two middle ones. And also, looking down here, there's a nice curve in these pillars. So we may get a nice curve in the background from these pillars, especially with all the graffiti on. So I'm going to retake the shot and hopefully this time I can nail it. Nice. So we've got Matty there coming onto the ball, coming off. Like I said, we've got those pillars in the background. It just makes for a much interesting shot. We've not lost the background because we're trying to tell the story that we're underneath this flyover with pillars that are graffitied quite heavily, and there's lots of good art around. So yeah, I think we've pretty good shot. We're going to sort of spice things up a bit now. We've got some smoke grenades. Now, we've actually attached one to Matty's bike because if bouncing off bouncy balls on a bike wasn't enough, we should probably have some smoke. So we're gonna try and see how this works. There's a little bit of wind, but I think it might be cool. What I'm trying to hopefully have the effect of is when Matty spins round on the bike, so does the smoke. We may have a kind of a round smoke trail as well, which will look pretty cool. So same as before, same shutter speed and camera settings. I'm still going to shoot continuous. It's mainly just aesthetics for the smoke, but I think it makes quite an interesting shot. And if we're looking at colours, obviously blue and orange go really well together. So we should have a look. Smoke grenades probably last a good 50, 60 seconds, a minute. We're going to probably have him go around maybe twice, maybe 3 times to maximise using this smoke grenade up. But yeah, bear in mind if we don't get that first shot right, because throughout the smoke grenade, there's a bit where the smoke kind of tails off, but can be better because it doesn't engulf the rider and gives you a better shot as well. So we'll see, we'll mix it up and see what shots we've got. You may be thinking, well, where should I focus on a moving subject? Now, for the main part, because the ball is stationary and that's where Matty's going to be bouncing off of, I'm going to be focusing or putting my focus spot on the ball. We're shooting at f4 because that's the fastest aperture on this lens. So although it's a faster aperture and yes, it's slightly more shallower, but it's not as shallow as f2.8. So we've still got a bit of depth of field to play with in terms of sharpness of Matty. So I'm just going to preset my focus on the ball and then let Matty go and come and ride, and that will give me the sharpest results. Well, if anything, it's given some interesting results. Maybe not the results first looking for, but I think it does tie into where we are aesthetically, and yeah, I think it's all right. It's pretty good. We managed to get the shot. Matty's nice and sharp. We've got some good shots, good results. I think when he's coming off the ball, there's more smoke around him. That kind of adds the effect of it. But yeah, it wasn't too bad at all. Okay, so not only does Matty have jumping on exercise balls in his trick list, he also does more traditional trial stuff, which we're all going to see here now. So we're going to get Matty to go up onto this bank, start on the top and then hop in. Now again, for this, I'm just going to use the one single shot I'm going to pick my timing, and I'm going to get Matty as he's coming off the ledge and dropping in onto the bank. Again, I'm going to get low, I'm going to shoot wide. That's going to emphasize also the height, but also make it interesting. Again, we're under this big flyover, there's lots of graffiti, there's lots of cool graffiti on the bank itself, and then we're going to go from there. Pretty much the same from before. Focus is going to be on Matty. I'm going to use continuous autofocus because Matty's going to be moving, but yeah, I'm going to keep the settings pretty much the same, looking for about 1/600th of a second on the shutter speed, and I'll use my ISO to kind of match that, whatever it's going to be over there. Okay, all right, Matty, ready? Okay. Try and keep the light a bit more dynamic and how the light falls on the subject. We're kind of going to use it at a bit of an angle. I'd always like to use about 45 degrees around that spot. If it's, you know, if you put the flash directly on the top of the hot shoe, it's going to be very flat, very boring. Whereas this way, off to the side, off to an angle, hopefully we'll get some nice dynamic light. I'm just going to take a tester shot again. You know, always take some test shots. Play around with the light. There may be that, you know, you didn't need so much light, or a little bit more power would help you to stop down the background and make it a little bit more interesting. I'm going to check now the flash fires. That's the most important thing. But also when I take the shot, I'm going to slightly underexpose it. So my settings are f2.8, because it's very fast. Now my shutter speed is 1/300th of a second, and ISO is about 1600. Now I'm going to have a look at this. I'm going to fire the flash. It may be that the flash is too hot, so I'll need then to stop down. I think I'm at 132 on the power, so I may go down to 164 or maybe even 128. But this is where, you know, firing off some test shots is really handy to see where you are at, and we can adjust from there. Not bad. He's up there now, he's going to drop in. As he's on the back tyre, I'm going to start taking some shots, and then he'll drop in afterwards. But the main thing for me on this now is to get Matty, not as he's dropping in, but as he's on that back wheel, right on the edge. I think that makes a really cool shot. That's kind of like the crucial position. Nice. So Matty's looking good. I think it needs a little bit more power. So I'm going to bump the power up just a little bit more. Now, there's two things I can do. I can either bump the power up, or I can adjust my ISO, and that will give me obviously increasing light coming through into the camera. So, are we going to do it again? Okay, mate. Okay, our shot's a little bit better, but still, because Matty's in black, bike's black, we're only seeing obviously the orange. So it's important that we get Matty highlighted. Now black does absorb light, so I'm going to need to increase the power a little bit more. Great, okay, we got it. So I need to raise that almost to my flash's full power for that one, just because it is so dark in here and Matty is obviously all in black. But we got the result. Okay, next shot, we're going to have Matty coming onto this box and he's going to do a 180 tyre tap off. So that means he's going to come around onto the back wheel and then do another 180, so almost a 360 or 270 because he's going to come off on the side. So it'll be a pretty cool shot. Again, I'm going to look to try and get Matty when he's at that point as he's on the back wheel and he's looking around and kind of come off. That's kind of going to portray the trick itself. And again, you know, with sports photography, it's trying to find that point in the trick that defines it. You know, half a second less or half a second too long. If I'm waiting to take the shot, then you know the trick itself looks completely different. So again, this is about trying to understand the sport and the rider itself. They could be riding left foot forward, right foot forward, in that again, then they'll spin in two different directions. So understanding the rider, your subject, and the sport itself is where kind of it plays to, or if you're going to shoot and looking to shoot these kind of subjects, to do your homework first. And then it makes it easier for you, you know, okay, yeah, he's going to come in, he's going to go spin from his left to his right, or vice versa. He's on the back foot, but I want him to looking round, so you're kind of seeing that he's going to move round and come back and ride away. At the moment he's looking too far that way. Okay. Yeah. Well, no, because you're this way now, aren't you? Back to you, isn't it? I need to be that way. All right, well, that's it for this location with Matty. We're gonna head into town now, go to a park for our next location. We're gonna meet our next athlete and we're gonna go from there. All right.